the game could see the boxing voice.
Welcome back, gang, for the first time and hopefully many more to come. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and click on the notifications right here, this little bell, so you can get those emails every time we go live.
Hey, Bob, how are you? Well, essentially what I wanted to do was really pick your brain, because you're the only promoter that I know that's been able to promote big fights, pay-per-view fights in foreign countries, and you've done it recently with Manny Pacquiao. You took him to China. You've taken him to Australia. Most recently, he'll be in Malaysia. And there's a big fight on our hands. They're calling it the biggest fight of the decade in terms of heavyweights, and that's Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder. Wilder, as you know, has offered Joshua the $50 million that he asked for, and now Joshua is saying he'd rather take $15 million less to fight in the UK. How would a promoter such as yourself, how did you first of all do it in the past with Thriller? I mean, with Ali, you've taken him to different countries. So how had you done it in the past, and how could you get it done now in the future?
Well, the difference is, frankly, is you have one fighter, Joshua, who is an absolute huge draw in his country. He puts 70 and 80,000 people in an arena, in a stadium, to watch him fight. He's done that consistently. And you got the other fighter, Wilder, who has not been nearly as effective a draw in the United States. I mean, I'm not talking about who was a better fighter, who isn't a better fighter. I'm talking about who draws. And Joshua is a proven draw. And it would be really folly for Hearns to consider Joshua fighting outside of the UK on a major fight. In other words, if you have been able throughout Joshua's career to get huge crowds to watch him in the United Kingdom, you don't give them a thumb in the eye by taking Joshua outside of England, outside the UK, for the biggest fight of his career. So this is different from a situation where you had Ali and Fraser, and because the Philippine government put up a lot of money, you went to Manila. Or other fights where you did in South Africa or other places in the world. This is a fight where a guy, a huge draw in his country, but a really huge draw. Those crowds, I was there when he fought Parker in Cardiff, and there were over 80,000 people in that indoor stadium. And they're fervent fans, and I would suggest that Wilder make the best deal possible and fight that fight over in the UK.
Now, at the time that you made Frazier and Ali, were there not competing venues offering site fees? How did you ultimately land in the Philippines?
Because the Philippines put up more money than was even conceivable any place in the United States.
And did they just do that on their own, or did you reach out?
No, they did it on their own.
So the interest has to be there from the government.
Right, and the same thing with when King did the Rumble in the Jungle, Ali and Foreman in Zaire. It was the government in Zaire that put up this enormous amount of money that allowed that fight to happen. This is completely different from that.
Got it. So, Bob, obviously there has been the latest headline with Manny Pacquiao is that he does not want to face Terrence Crawford, but that he's absolutely willing to move down to 135 and face Lomachenko. With Lomachenko now going through rehab, is this something that you guys would consider, or do you have to wait for a full recovery before you can offer him any fights?
No, well, I spent last week. We brought Lomo back into Los Angeles, and Dr. Elatrosh examined him and did the arthroscopic surgery. The prognosis is tremendous. He's already rehabilitating the shoulder. We expect him in the ring November, December at the latest. So if Manny wants to fight Lomachenko at 135 pounds, that fight can happen. And
is Top Rank still affiliated with Manny Pacquiao, or is moving forward fight by fight? What is your relationship?
We're affiliated with him. We have a great relationship with Manny. We're doing the television distribution of his fight in Malaysia, and we have a great relationship, and we're moving forward with him. I mean, Manny has been part of Top Rank for a decade, and we hope to continue with him until he gets elected president of the Philippines.
And if for whatever reason Loma Manny couldn't happen, what options would you offer to either man?
Well, Loma can face, wants to do a major fight. He can do a unification with Beltran. There's a Garcia fight out there that could be huge. But the biggest fight for him, for Loma, would be against Pacquiao.
And speaking of Garcia, you can't really speak of him, but he's been offered multiple offers from this new Matchroom USA DAZN network deal. And I'd like to get your opinion on that. Some people are comparing it to the PBC. Can you just, as a promoter that's been doing this for so long, give me your differences in what you believe Eddie Hearn's Matchroom DAZN stream-only deal would be in terms of differences with PBC? Because he's actively trying to sign PBC fighters.
Well, here's the problem there. The fighters can grab money to fight on this streaming platform. Problem is the audience will tend to be small, and they won't have the megaphone that you do when you're on a linear, but whether it's ESPN or Showtime or HBO. So the fighters will be tied up for maybe 18 months or 2 years fighting on a platform where there won't be that many eyeballs. And then what happens if the company that Matchroom has made the deal with decides not to exercise their option? Here, the guys then go back on the market with virtually nobody having seen them for 2 years. Now, that's not very good. And
now, I will say this. I hate to interrupt, but I will say this. Yesterday, Matchroom and Eddie Hearn had a press conference for their next-gen fights out in the UK, and he was asked a lot of questions about DAZN, and he made it clear that the difference between DAZN and PBC is that they're not going to only sign fighters to contracts. They're willing to buy fights. So he said essentially Mikey Garcia's next fight can land on DAZN, just like Wilder Brazil can land on DAZN, that he's open to dealing with you, with Golden Boy, with whoever, to make the biggest fight on DAZN, no contract.
Well, we have, obviously, a platform where we have 30 events a year between ESPN and ESPN+. So, obviously, we're not looking to sell any fights. PBC might consider selling a fight here and there to Hearns. But again, if it's a significant fight, the problem is that but very few people will see it. Unlike ESPN Plus, where like the Crawford Horn fight is, you see ESPN using its network, its megaphone to boost that fight and to drive a lot of eyeballs to ESPN Plus. That's who does the zone have to drive eyeballs? That's the real problem. And, the ESPN Plus has a very reasonable monthly fee of $4.95, and you can buy it. You can subscribe for a month and then cancel. They're talking that the zone is talking about $20 a month. So the problem is, look, it can work, and I hope it works, but there's a lot of unanswered questions when it comes to the zone.
Now, Bob, when it comes to the ESPN and the deal that you decided to do, what was the mitigating factor in you deciding to push boxing content to a paid platform? Like, essentially, there are some naysayers out there that feel that Crawford viewership numbers will be hurt by being on this paid-only platform.
Well, first of all, it's not paid only. It's you subscribe to the app. Anybody who looks at that app and subscribes to it is blown away. I mean, you can get at any given time 80 of the greatest fights in history, going back to Joe Louis, Leonard, Hearns, Hagler Hearns. I mean, it's an unbelievable lineup. Plus, you can watch baseball, you can watch soccer live, you can watch lacrosse. I mean, you watch great documentaries. The bandwidth is infinite. So for anybody who's a sports fan, the problem is that there's so much to watch. I found myself spending nights watching that app on my television set because I was, I'd never seen this Joe Louis fight or a Ray Robinson fight, and it's fantastic. And that's just fights, and they have plenty of other things. So, yes, there will be fewer people watching Terrence Crawford Horn than if it was on ESPN, and most of our fights under our deal will be on ESPN linear, but there will be fights on the ESPN Plus because it is the future. We are now looking at the future where content will be delivered to people direct to consumer without the use of cable systems, without the use of satellite providers. This is the future. And so 20 years from now, after I'm gone, of course, but 20 years from now, when they write about boxing and technology, they will look at Terrence Crawford as his fight being the pioneer event launching direct to consumer.
That was going to be my next question. Did you or Top Rank, do you guys have data indicating that the millennials are now using more apps, and this is just the wave for boxing to have to be on mobile platform and on-demand, stream-only content?
Well, when they first, I obviously wanted to get ESPN Plus, and I'm not very savvy, as people my age aren't on digital and how to get things. So I asked my grandkids, and they hooked up my televisions, my devices. So now I get it on very easily on everything. So I think that's the way to get ESPN Plus. If you're not technologically astute, you ask your grandkids.
Well, Bob, it's always a pleasure. I want to thank you, obviously. I wish you the best of luck in all the future endeavors. Thanks again for the time. The Boxing Voice always appreciates it. And I'll see you next time.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you. Nice talking to you.
Bye-bye.